Emperor spends 200 million to find him. Unaware it's a human mechanic he ignores daily. The Galactic Empire stretched across 1,000 star systems, ruled by Emperor Kale Vanar, a man who had never known failure. His fleets patrolled every quadrant. His governors collected tribute without mercy, and his throne world, Vanar Prime, glittered under twin suns. Yet, despite all his power, Kale could not sleep. For 3 nights, a dream had haunted him. One of fire, broken ships, and a figure walking through the wreckage holding a tool instead of a weapon. A voice, disembodied and ancient, whispered, "Your empire will burn unless you find the one who repairs what others abandon." Kale, ever superstitious despite his reputation as a ruthless strategist, summoned his council. Search every sector. Leave no stone unturned. The Oracle's visions do not lie. I will spend whatever it takes, 200 million credits, if necessary, to find this man. The courtiers bowed, knowing the Emperor's word was absolute. Ships scattered across the galaxy in search of the mysterious figure, interrogating travelers, hiring mercenaries, bribing governors. Unbeknownst to Kale, the man he sought worked within the steel bowels of his own palace, an unnoticed human mechanic named Jackson Run, beginning the mechanic in the shadows. Jackson was one of thousands of laborers brought from Earth generations ago, when humanity first entered the Empire as a conquered people. Humans were adaptable, clever with machines, but politically irrelevant. To most of the Empire's aristocracy, they were little more than background noise, useful but invisible. Jackson worked 12-hour shifts in the palace hangar, repairing everything from shuttle couplings to worn-out fighter thrusters. He was quiet, meticulous, and largely ignored by his supervisors. When they did notice him, it was usually to bark orders or remind him of his place. But Jackson carried a secret. His late father had been one of the last Terran engineers who remembered Earth's independent era, before the Empire conquered it. He had passed down knowledge long forgotten, techniques of repair and invention that bordered on the miraculous. Jackson could coax life out of machines others considered scrap, sensing not just where they were broken but why. When the Empire's warships limped back from distant campaigns, Jackson often found himself working late into the night, hands blackened with oil, listening to hum of engines like a doctor listening to the heart of a patient. No one in power noticed. No one cared. Middle, the Emperor's hunt. Weeks passed as the Emperor's search consumed the treasury. Agents scoured distant colonies, capturing engineers, interrogating starship crews, testing anyone with mechanical skills. Bounties flooded the outer rim. The palace buzzed with rumors. 200 million credits for a single man. Workers whispered in disbelief. Some imagined a legendary warrior, others a mystic inventor who could turn metal into gold. Jackson listened but kept his head down, focusing on his work, until one evening. A courier shuttle staggered into the hangar, smoke trailing from its engines. Its drive system was ruptured, irreparable by standard methods. Supervisors called in their best engineers, but after hours of failure, the order was given. Strip it for parts. Jackson stepped forward. "I can fix it." The overseer sneered. "You? Human? Don't waste my time. It's scrap." But Jackson ignored him. He laid his hands on the scorched engine, listening to the faint resonance within. Where others saw broken metal, he saw a pattern, like a melody interrupted. Using tools no one else thought relevant, he rerouted power, reshaped connectors, and reinforced weak points with alloys scavenged from unrelated systems. Within 2 hours, the engine roared back to life. The shuttle lifted gracefully, as though reborn. The hangar fell silent. Even the overseer was speechless. Word of the miracle spread quickly, upward, past supervisors and guards, until whispers reached the throne room itself. "Majesty," said High Chancellor Draven, "there is a human in your hangar. They say he restored a vessel deemed unsalvageable. The way he worked, it matches the Oracle's description." Kale narrowed his eyes. A human? Impossible. The figure in my vision was no slave. Yet doubt gnawed at him. He ordered the man brought before him. The meeting. Jackson had never stepped foot in the throne chamber. It was vast, with black marble floors and banners of conquered worlds hanging from a vaulted ceiling. At its center sat Emperor Kale upon his throne of obsidian and gold. The mechanic bowed awkwardly, grease still staining his hands. "So," Kale said, voice echoing, "you are the miracle worker who fixes what others discard." "I just repair ships, sire," Jackson replied. The courtiers chuckled. The Emperor's lips curled in a faint smile, mocking but intrigued. "Tell me, human, could you repair this?" He gestured. Guards rolled out the shattered remains of an ancient relic, a prototype war drone unearthed from a battlefield centuries old. Its power core was dead, its limbs corroded. Jackson examined it silently. His mind traced invisible pathways, mapping fractures and forgotten circuits. Then he nodded. "With time." The court laughed again, but Kale raised a hand. "Very well. You have 3 days. Jackson worked without rest. He scavenged forgotten storage vaults, repurposed abandoned components, and even consulted old Terran manuals his father had hidden. By the third sunrise, the drone stirred. Its eyes glowed crimson, limbs unfolding with metallic shriek. It bowed before the Emperor. Functional once more. Gasps filled the chamber. Kale rose slowly. 200 million credits spent searching the galaxy, and all along, you stood before me, ignored. Jackson lowered his head. I've always been here, Majesty. The secret within. Though astonished, Kale could not admit vulnerability before his court. He dismissed them and spoke to Jackson privately. Why did you hide your talent? No one asked to see it. Jackson replied simply. To most, I'm just another human laborer. Kale studied him, then leaned closer. My vision was clear. You are more than a mechanic. You are the key to my empire's survival. Tell me, what secret do you carry? Jackson hesitated. Revealing the truth could mean death, or change everything. Finally, he spoke. My father taught me knowledge from before the conquest. The Empire built ships for war, but Earth built ships for life. Our technology was different, resilient, adaptable. I remember it all. That is why I can repair what your engineers cannot. The machines, they speak to me. The Emperor's eyes widened, though he quickly masked it. Then you are the last engineer of old Earth. Yes, and that is what your dream foretold. Not that I will save your empire, but that I will give you a choice. To continue ruling by force, or to preserve what remains before it collapses. Kale bristled. You dare lecture me? I dare tell you the truth, Jackson said quietly. The coming crisis. Days later, disaster struck. On the edge of Imperial space, a rebel coalition of conquered species unleashed a new weapon, an electromagnetic wave that disabled entire fleets. Ships fell silent, powerless, leaving thousands stranded. Panic spread through the Empire. Without functioning warships, Kale's dominion would crumble. Majesty, said his admirals, our fleets are useless. The rebels marched toward Vanar Prime itself. Kale turned to Jackson. Can you stop this? Jackson considered. Your ships are vulnerable because they're built only for power, not resilience. But with old Earth's methods, I can re-engineer them, make them immune to the wave. It will take time, but it can be done. Then do it, Kale commanded. The final test. For weeks, Jackson worked side by side with crews, teaching forgotten techniques, redesigning power grids, shielding systems with adaptive alloys. Slowly, ships once crippled by the wave began to stir. The courtiers who once mocked him now watched with awe. Soldiers whispered his name with reverence. Even Kale found himself drawn to the mechanic's humility and strength. At last, the rebel armada arrived, vast and unrelenting. Kale led the counterstrike himself. Commanding from his flagship, the enemy unleashed their devastating wave. But this time, Imperial ships stood firm. Engines roared, weapons blazed. The rebels, expecting an easy victory, were routed. The Empire was saved, ending recognition. When the battle was won, Kale returned to his throne world. Before the gathered court, he summoned Jackson. This man, the Emperor declared, is the one the Oracle foretold. While I spent 200 million credits searching distant stars, he worked unseen in my own halls. A human, overlooked, ignored, yet he preserved the Empire itself. He turned to Jackson. What reward do you seek? Wealth? Power? A title among the nobility? Jackson shook his head. I seek none of that. I only ask the humans, and all those your empire considers lesser. Be seen, not ignored, not treated as shadows. If my work has worth, then so does theirs. The court stirred uneasily, but Kale, moved in a way he did not expect, raised his hand. Then so it shall be. From this day, humanity shall no longer be slaves, but citizens of the Empire. And you, Jackson Run, will stand as chief engineer of my fleets. The chamber erupted in astonishment. Jackson bowed, but his eyes met the Emperor's, and in that moment, both men understood. The mechanic who had been invisible became the most vital man in the galaxy, and the Emperor who once ignored him would never again forget.